You know when a book is so good and you don't want to put it down, and life just gets in the way of you reading that book? That's what this book was. Hello, welcome back to my channel. My name is Debbie. I am currently making my way through all the books in the house, which I've now put onto my bookshelf, and I'm also reading books on an app called BorrowBox, which is connected to my local library. Not sponsored, just as a book lover, I love that I can read books for free. Today's book is called Both of You by Adele Parks. I've read Adele Parks books before and I've been completely obsessed. You know those ones where there's a twist on like the final page? That's what Adele Parks does to me, I think. So that is the front cover of the book. Yes, I've figured out how to enlarge it, finally. Happy, Married, Missing. Both of You by Adele Parks. The Both of You of the title seems to cover more than one or two characters. I feel like I just need to get straight in with the blurb, so let's do that. Lee Fletcher, happily married stepmom to two gorgeous boys, goes missing on Monday. Her husband Mark says he knows nothing of her whereabouts. She went to work and never came home. Their family is shattered. Kai Jansen, married to wealthy Dutch businessman Dan, and vanishes the same week. Kai left their luxurious penthouse and glamorous world without a backward glance. She seemingly evaporated into thin air. Dan is distraught. Detective Clements knows that people disappear all the time, far too frequently. Most run away from things, some run toward, others are taken but find their way back. A sad few never return. These two women are from very different worlds. Their disappearances are unlikely to be connected, and yet, at a gut level, the detective believes they might be. How could these women walk away from their families, husbands, and homes willingly? Clements is determined to unearth the truth, no matter how shocking and devastating it may be. Yeah, this book was so good I could not put it down. I was reading it at work, I was reading it between treatments, I was reading it at lunch, and it was just so good. It's in contemporary fiction and crime and thriller. Where to start? You see it from points of view. You see it from Lee's point of view. You see it from Kai's point of view. You see it from Mark's point of view. And you see it from Dan's point of view. And there's also another name in there, which I almost don't want to say because it might spoil something. But the fact is, I'm going to have to talk about that twist because you learn about it quite quickly. And I think I'm dying. Apologies if the framing is slightly different. Just to warn you, I do have a bit of a cold at the moment. I went to bed last night and realised I couldn't breathe. So I had several pillows under my head trying to pump me up so that I could breathe. I had Vicks and stuff. Amazingly, the cat still wanted to snuggle with me, even though I had Vicks on board. And I've got a lemon and ginger thing with some honey added to it to help my throat, because my throat's really sore. So, cheers to winter for giving me a cold. So back to Both of You. Both of You of the title, as I realised as I went through, meant that it could apply to several people. So you meet Lee and realise that she's almost going through the motions at this point. You see her, there's flashbacks to when she met Mark at a park with his kids, and she's just there thinking, oh, he's married, he's got the kids, it's probably like his day with them or something, don't know where the wife is, whatever. And then one of his sons falls off a slide, which sends them all into panic, and Lee just instinctively just goes and tries to sort the child out while Mark just freezes. And she doesn't really understand why he's frozen. He just think, maybe it's just panic, and, you know, he just doesn't know what to do. And so she goes with them to the hospital. She doesn't know Mark, she doesn't know the family. She just happened to be there when the accident happened, and then they spend a lot of time together, they fall in love, and she becomes a stepmom to the boys. Through that you find out Mark's first wife had cancer and is not here anymore, and through alternate chapters you then also meet Kai Jansen, and you find out how she meets her Dutch businessman husband Dan. It's D-A-A-N because it's Dutch, but I kept reading it as Dan rather than Dan. I think it's just with the double vowel, it just makes me feel like it should be a longer sound, but it's Dan, not Dan. And you realise that, you know, together they're wealthy. When they first meet, you almost think it's like a one-night stand type situation, and you realise, no, they're actually quite love each other and they've got just a different kind of relationship. And you realise through both stories that both Lee and Kai have times where they're away from their family home for quite periods of times. You've got Lee goes away for work and business quite a lot. Kai's mother is ill, and so she's travelling back up north quite a lot because it's all set in London, and you find out that Kai travels up north to see her mother and look after her mother quite a lot. But Dan never meets Kai's mum. You first hear about Lee's disappearance and then you hear about Kai's disappearance after that. Detective Clements, she is convinced. At first she thinks they're two completely separate things, but when she realises the disappearances have like some things in common, she starts to think that maybe they're connected. We're going into spoiler territory now, because as Detective Clements investigates and she has the picture of Lee, and then she goes to Dan finding out that his wife has gone missing, and he presents a picture of his wife Kai to the detective, and Detective Clements realises, I've seen that picture before. Basically, Lee and Kai appear to be the same person, and that her real name is Kylie. And that's when you start getting the chapters of Kylie coming through, because you're just like, oh, so first of all, you're seeing it from Lee's point of view, then you see it from Kai, and then once you find out that they're the same person, it then, from then on, you see that it's just Kylie's chapters. And so after we find out that both Lee and Kai are missing, we go into chapters of the point of view of Kylie when she's been abducted. She's trying to figure out who took her. You see her trying to establish how she ended up living this double life where she's married to two men and has two different families, and how she sorts all that out, and the fact that there is only one friend that she has that she's confided in over the years, but not about her dual family status, not about the whole bigamy thing, but it's just this one friend that she cannot get rid of and she always talks to. Yeah, there's a lot to unpackage in this book, because I'll admit, just to skip forward to the end, because I realised that there are so many red herrings throughout the book about who did it. There's, on Kylie's chapters, you see her trying to work out basically which husband has taken her, and I was there thinking, I think it's unlikely to be one of the husbands. I think it's somebody else that she's pissed off with this double life. There were points when I was suspecting her sons, because you realise that one of her sons knows about her double life, and has known for a couple of months, because by accident he saw her out with Dan while he was out at the park, and he was just like, that's not my mum. Oh yeah, that's my mum. And so he knows about it for a while. So there was times when I was suspecting one of the sons. There was even times when I suspected the best friend. And so I think I suspected everybody at one point. There was even a detective at the police station that I was suspecting as well, because of how blasé he was all about it. And I was just thinking, does this mean that the police are part of this cover-up? And to add to that, this is set just before the pandemic hit. So just before the lockdown. So you see the build-up leading to that first lockdown that we had in 2020. Yeah, it was published May 2021, so it was published May this year. It's set just before the first lockdown was announced. So you realise there's a bit of a time crunch on it as well, because you're realising that as soon as that lockdown hits, their resources are going to be pulled, and there'll be no way for them to find out what's actually happened to Kylie. So you've got that kind of time crunch on there as well, which just, it feels very fast paced. For me, there was enough to keep me going. It was one of those ones where you get to the end of a chapter and you're just like, I have to know what happens next. I need to know. So whenever I got to the end of a chapter, or I got to the end of a page with a full stop on it, because that's the only way I can stop books. I can't, if it's not a full stop, I can't stop yet. Yeah, I was constantly going, give me more, I need to know what happens, and I was constantly suspecting everybody, to the point where actually, when everything came out at the end, I was just like, oh, I suspected them at one point, and for kind of similar reasons as to what came out, but because there was so many red herrings thrown in and to the point where you were literally suspecting everybody. It was one of those things where kind of I suspected this person and then went over it, and then started suspecting somebody else. But the fact that I had kind of almost hit the nail on the head, and then went, oh wait, but what about this person? And I'll admit, if you're looking for like one of those mysteries that has a bit of a happy ending, this isn't going to be quite what you're looking for. Oh, I just realised that this also has another title. Is it an American one, maybe? This book also has another title, which is Woman Last Seen, but I've read it as Both of You. And to be honest, I like the Both of You title better just because it applies to so much. Because it's the point when it's the both of you as in regards to Kai and Lee being the same person, or the both of you in regards to the two husbands. Because there's times when Kylie, when she's locked up, when she's been kidnapped, and she's trying to figure out which of her husbands has kidnapped her, because she thinks it has to be one of those two. And she's trying to defend her thing. It's just like, you know, I love both of you. You know, both of you are part of my life. But then you're also looking at the both of you of Kai and Lee. Yeah, I think that title is cleverer than the Woman Last Seen. I like the fact that, because I mean, I'm on Goodreads at the moment. One person has actually put in their review. I liked the ending and the fact that it isn't all neatly tied up in a bow. It's much more realistic and true to life. I think it's also the fact that it coincides with the beginning of the lockdown of the pandemic. So in a way, I was just there thinking, if they don't figure it out on time, they won't find out what's happened to her. And that's kind of where it goes, to the point where you're just like, so the reader knows what's happened, but the characters are never going to figure this out because of how it's been done, and just the timing was just perfect for the events of the book. I think the most interesting part is looking at the relationship between Kylie and her friend Fiona, and you're seeing Fiona's reaction when she finds out that despite having that close friendship with Kylie that whole time, that Kylie never shared this part with Fiona, and she reacts in a way that I imagine most friends would, having that thing of, you know, she was my best friend. I mean, Fiona even helps the detectives figure stuff out, because when it comes out that Kai and Lee might be the same person, and the detective is trying to work out if Lee has ever gone by the other name, and Fiona's there going, yeah, her name used to be Kylie. But then, after estrangement from her family, she decided to change her name to Lee. She was just never comfortable being Kylie, and she wanted to change her name to Lee. So you get a lot of information from Fiona regarding kind of the storyline. Fiona really does help kind of push the narrative along with the stuff that you find out. I think it's mainly because there's nobody else to really share kind of the person kind of in the middle of all of it. Because obviously you see Lee with Mark and you see Kai with Dan, but without Fiona you wouldn't know who she was before that, or what she was like when she wasn't with any of her husbands. But yeah, you get kind of that more information about Kylie through Fiona. So she's a very, very integral part of the story. The things you learned about Fiona and how she feels about relationships, because you get the idea that Fiona just isn't that fussed about relationships. Like, she's been scarred one too many times, and so she tries to keep herself like an arm's length away from an actual relationship. She's happy with hookups, but she doesn't want an actual relationship. And then as you get to know her, you realise that maybe she's put a bit of a protective casing around herself, because she doesn't want to get hurt. But at the same time, she does want a relationship, but she wants a relationship, but she also wants to protect herself at the same time. So it's that kind of just thing of being in that middle ground where she's just like, I want a relationship, but at the same time I don't want to get hurt again. So when you are getting to know Kylie in the chapters where you hear about the relationship between Fiona and Kylie, as well as getting to know Kylie, you also get to know Fiona, and you find out just how that friendship has evolved. But yeah, this was such a good book. It's so good with the twists, and the fact that it really does have you suspecting everybody at some point. Because when you find out one of the kids knows about the double life, and you're just like, he seems angry enough to be able to do something like this, especially when he keeps disappearing. And then you've got the fact that you've got Mark, who seems like quite a gentle loving person, but then you find out something about his first wife and you're just like, oh, this paints things in a different light. Is it possible that Mark isn't as squeaky clean as we thought he was? Dan, after the disappearance, he goes a bit standoffish. So it's a mixture of being devastated at kind of the lie, but then at the same time you're just there thinking, he doesn't seem as upset as he should be. But at the same time, it's one of those things where it's just like, you found out your wife is missing, but then you also found out she's been lying to you and has had this whole other life without you, and has been married to somebody else this whole time. And so you're there, it's looking at grief a little bit in a way, because they're going from, my wife is missing and oh my god, I'm in a panic because I think something's happened to her, to then finding out that she lied and she had a whole different life with somebody else, to the point where you're then thinking, oh well, what if she had a third man and maybe she's just gone off with him? Has she killed herself because she couldn't keep up with it anymore? Or has she pissed somebody off so royally that that somebody just done the unimaginable? And so you realise through this that even though Kylie is kind of the protagonist, she's not really, because throughout all of Kylie's chapters you see her trying to defend that double life. You don't seem to get any actual remorse from Kylie, to the point where the ending kind of feels perfect. Kylie doesn't deserve a happy ending, really. Yeah, it's just so interesting with just how you really do just suspect everybody. I mean, I've seen some of the reviews on Goodreads where they're saying that they kind of see it coming. It's just like, I can understand that, because there are so many hints dropped throughout for all the characters for possible motives. So when you find out who actually did do it, who actually did take Kylie, everything adds up. It doesn't feel like it came out of complete left field, because the seed was already planted. But in that lead up to the end, when you realise what's going on, and you realise what they've done to her, and you realise what's happening as everything starts to come out, and then when everything happens and you get the story that led up to that point and why that person did it, and you just say, I completely understand why that person did it. You understand because of all the lies. You understand because you've been given that in-depth history of all the characters. And so when I saw the words "the end" under that last little section, just like, wait, that's the end. And that's it. And you feel like it hasn't completely closed it all, but at the same time it's gotten to that point when lockdown is imminent, and you're just like, yeah, now all this has happened and the lockdown is literally just about to be announced. There's no way. There's no way. Ugh. Yeah, I feel like I read this in the space of about a week, I think, just reading it whenever I could. If you like a good twisty book that doesn't have that perfect wrapped in a bow ending, but yeah, when I think about it, there was no way to wrap this up in a good way, because nobody was really innocent, especially not Kylie. Especially when she had no remorse for it, and that's part of the reason for why it all happens, because there's a conversation at the end of the book where they're just like, you keep trying to defend yourself, you know, you keep saying how much you love both of them and how they both need to be part of your life, and that you don't seem to be sorry for what you've done. And that was the point that kind of locked it in for me, where it's just like, yeah, Kylie's not a good person here. She's kind of presented a bit as somebody who's kind of been a victim, in a way. And throughout the book, she essentially is a victim because she's been kidnapped. Then you realise that, yeah, she's not squeaky clean. Her double life is the reason for this. And, yeah. Oh, it was just so good. But yeah, so that's Adele Parks, both of you, also known as Woman Last Seen. Again, I still prefer the both of you title. I think Woman Last Seen is the American title, because it's on goodreads.com and it's done in American pricing, so with dollars. So I think Woman Last Seen is the American title, whereas Both of You is the British title. But yeah, I think Both of You just encompasses everything of the book because it applies to both Kai and Lee, and it also refers to the husbands. I really, really enjoyed this book. Oh, I wasn't expecting this to be the next book review. I thought I was going to finish The Doorstep Girls first, but I think I've got about 50 pages left of The Doorstep Girls, so I'll probably be finishing that off probably later today, knowing me. But yeah, this book was just so, so good. And again, barely scratched the surface with some of the stuff that happens in it. Is this a different picture than the one I showed you at the beginning? Because it's also in green. In A Marriage Built on Lies, the truth will destroy both of you. That's on the blue version. And then on the green title it says Happy, Married, Missing. So, it's 3 versions of the cover. So that's the other one. Ah, it's so good. And I can't wait to read another Adele Parks books because she's just on the money when it comes to the twists. So the next book review should be The Doorstep Girls by... Let's have a look. The Doorstep Girls by Val Wood. As you can see, I'm really not far off the end now, so I should be able to finish that off today. Next one on the bookshelf is Blue Monday by Nikki French. The first in a killer new series introducing Frida Klein. Ooh, this is a series. Oh, this looks like my kind of book. And this is from 2011. Don't know how I haven't read this one yet. But yeah, that says it's Blue Monday, A Day for Murder. But yeah, so I'm looking forward to starting that one. So I've started reading Love Your Life by Sophie Kinsella, and then the one after that is Grown Ups by Marion Keyes. And then I'm also trying to listen to the audiobook of The Couple Next Door by Shari LaPena, because that was recommended by a girl at work. But yeah, so thank you so much for watching this book review. I'll see you tomorrow with another video for Vlogmas. Stay safe, everybody. Love you. Goodbye.